I hope you enjoyed our little beach trip yesterday, but today I wanted to talk about health. Boo. Okay, today we're talking about working out, staying active, being fit, eating healthy, and not in the way of me saying do it. I'm going to talk about my struggles with it because it's been on my mind, and I just did a workout for the first time in like 3 weeks because I was sick with the flu. I had to recover from my recovery because I was still like regaining my endurance and all of that. And then I had some setbacks after that. So the most I was really doing was walking with dogs because I was watching dogs. So that was pretty much it. So I'm doing yoga in the morning. It's just like a 10-minute quick like morning stretch. That was it. That's all I've done in the last 3 weeks. And so I just did a workout, and it was so challenging that it just had me thinking just how hard it is to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Yeah, so I want to talk about that a little bit. Let me get my thoughts in order and then I'll come back. So this is probably going to start off very discouraging, and then I'm going to try and build it back up because that's how my mindset kind of has been. And I was actually journaling about it because I thought I need to get it out on paper. And basically while journaling, I walked myself through the same thing I'm going to talk about here. And that is that staying in shape and being motivated to actually like eat healthy and maintain a healthy lifestyle is quite daunting if you don't already have that lifestyle. Going from something so mediocre to something much greater, it's daunting. And not only because you know it's going to be hard. It's hard to get started. It's hard to climb that mountain. There's always like this health mountain. There's always a mountain for everything. There's a mountain whenever you start something new and you want to get to a certain point and then you want to maintain that, whatever it is. It could be a new career. It could be starting a new hobby. It can be, starting a new language or working out or eating healthy. So there's always a mountain. Starting YouTube, for one. They call the YouTube or social media in general the cringe mountain. I don't know if you've heard of that, but like you have to climb the cringe mountain till you get to the top, and then you end up over here where it's like now you're cool or whatever. Yeah, so for healthy lifestyles, it's daunting because it's hard to get started because you're looking up this mountain and you're thinking, wow, I have so far to go, and it's a hard climb. Not only that, but it's hard sometimes to find the right reason, the right purpose, because if you have something in mind of why you want to get in shape or get healthy, sometimes it's not enough because, at least for me, I have a really hard time doing things that are beneficial for me personally. So for me to say, yes, like my reasonings for wanting to get in shape and get healthy are, number one, basically to age gracefully and with dignity. I want to be able to maintain a lifestyle so that I'm not fully dependent on someone else. I'm still physically able to travel and see places that I want to see there's just not enough time to see it all while I'm young. Eventually I'm going to have to be traveling while I'm older. And so I want to be able to have that mobility. I want to be able to, lift something without hurting myself or creating injury, things like that. So I really want to maintain a healthy lifestyle in order to just function. I also want to maintain an internal health so that I can ward off sickness easier, or, I don't come down with something and it knocks me out for so long that again, like this whole sickness that I had with the flu and then having to come back and try to get back into a routine of movement, it's difficult. So, and the longer you're out, the harder it is to get back. So yeah, like the healthier your immune system is and everything, the easier it is to get over illnesses and things like that. So that's helpful. And then obviously I want to feel comfortable in my body. I want to feel like, you know, I can move around without it getting in the way of my day-to-day. You know, like I don't want my back to hurt every day, and I want to be able to fit comfortably in clothes. Like I wear a lot of like, I don't know, just like comfortable clothes because I want to constantly feel comfortable. And these are the kind of clothes that make me feel the most comfortable because they're stretchy or they mold with my body when I move and things like that. But I'd like to be able to wear things that are a little bit more not tomboy style, you know, and just feel like comfortable in that. But also like I want to be able to bend and move and crawl into places and like fix things in the house and do things like that where like I don't feel like my body is like in the way, you know, like I don't know, it's just like where I can be more flexible and just get places easier and do things without, you know, the hindrance of my body, you know, which I know is going to happen anyways. It happens just with age in general. I mean, things decline, but being able to do it for as long as possible and with as much ease as possible is the goal. So those are the reasons like why I want to sort of up level my game here a little bit. But with that in mind still, like those sound like decent reasons to do it. But for some reason, it's not enough because it's for me, you know, like it's like, I know like I want to be able to do something good for my future self. I want to be able to care for myself in that way. But I've always really struggled with doing that. I've struggled with having the motivation be myself. So with my history with health and like weight loss, and, you know, I say weight loss because, you know, weight was just an easier trackable goal. So I was also young. I was in peak physical ability. I was in my 20s, okay? I was in like just after college. I had gained a little bit of weight in college, and by a little bit I mean a lot compared to where I was. So I gained about like 30 pounds. And at the time I had this like motivation to get healthier, but it wasn't necessarily just for me. I was all of similar things of what I talked about wanting now, but I was younger, so I had different future goals. Like I wanted to get healthy for potential children in the future. I wanted my body to be at this peak health for when that was going to happen. And I wanted to have a good future with my partners and like have the ability to do things that needed to be done, you know, as a mother and as working in a field that was going to be a pretty physical field and things like that, like for other people, you know, like I wanted to be able to be functional for others and provide the best home for, you know, like a baby and for others, you know, like just be my best for other people. So that was very motivating for me. But with that said, I did it. I met all my goals and everything and beyond, like, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But with my point being that I had these goals, there was things I wanted to accomplish and I did them, but it was still incredibly hard. And I was at peak, like I said, like in my peak, you know, young, fit. I had experience with fitness and sports, and it was not as hard as it is now, I guess is what I'm saying. And it was still incredibly hard. It took me 10 months of doing about 2 hours of workouts, like heart pumping workouts every single day, 2 hours. And I was eating a very light diet, you know, I mean, it was like healthy, but it was what, you know, I had to have a calorie deficit and I had to like burn it off, and I was tracking all of it constantly. It was like a full-time job, okay? And yeah, it only took me, I mean, you could say, oh, well, it only took you 10 months. But that's a long time. I mean, yes, it's less than a year, but but then on top of that, you have to maintain it after you get to a certain point. Like, yes, you can start reducing your workouts, or you can start eating more or whatever to get to like a healthy weight, and maintain that. But that's another part of the daunting process, is like knowing how hard it's going to be. And then also knowing you have to maintain that. It's not like, oh, I have my goal, and so I know it's going to be hard to get to that goal. Yeah, I am going to get to that goal. But then you don't think, oh, but then I have to maintain that goal, because if I stop, I will lose it. And then I'd have to start back over all over again, like where I'm at now, because I didn't maintain that. So it's quite a daunting feat, especially knowing what has to be done to get there, but also that it has to become a lifelong thing. You're changing your life. It's not just like you're doing something for 10 months to reach a goal, and then once you reach that goal, you're done, it's over. No. You now have to figure out how to maintain it. And it will be a little bit easier to learn how to maintain it because you've been working so hard to that point, and it won't be as hard to go forward. But you still have to do it or you'll lose it. So it's like that fear of, what if I can't maintain it? What if something happens? What, something knocks me off my feet? What if I break a leg? Or what if I don't know, something, you get sick, or you go on a month-long trip and you can't keep the same schedule, and you can't, because for me personally, if I get off track in some way, I'm very like, I get these routines and I get very obsessive about stuff. And that's what I was going to talk about before, with like how it can become disordered in a way if you get too obsessive about it. And it becomes, because it's like you have to make it part of your lifestyle. It has to be a pretty big shift. But if you do that, then now it's become like part of your personality. And then if it becomes part of your personality, it can become very obsessive. I mean, for me, I don't know, other people, maybe not, maybe it's fine. But that's why it's also been kind of scary for me to get back into a real, like, true health journey, because of that previous, like, obsessiveness. I don't want it to turn into a thing, I want it to just be like easy, natural, just part of life. Like, I'm just trying to live my best life here. I'm not trying to shift my whole world, and change my whole body or change my whole mindset or anything like that. That's too overwhelming. So with that said, like, I'm saying it's very hard and it's very daunting, but then I talked myself off the ledge a little bit, and I was like, you know what? You don't want it to be like it was before. You don't want it to be this obsessive thing. You don't need to be in tip-top shape. Your reasonings are for lifelong sustainable living. So figure out a way to make that work. And so I've talked myself into just taking one step at a time, going slow, because also while I was working out earlier, I really wanted to push myself harder, because it's hard when you know what your body is capable of. You've been at that point before. So you know what you could do or what you could have done back then. And so you try to push your body to where it was when it's not ready. And that can really create injuries. It can create more setbacks. It could just knock you off course a lot more. So just being able to say, okay, I have to start where I am. I have to go slow. I have to take one step at a time. I'm just doing minor shifts along the way, and then eventually I'll get there. I don't have to do it in 10 months. I can do it in 2 years. It can take longer. But every day that I do something positive for myself, every day that I take one extra step to make things a little bit better, then it's not going to feel so daunting. It's not going to be this life shift. It's not going to be an overhaul of my mindset and my world. It's just going to naturally occur over however long it takes for me to get there. But just being mindful every day of like the goals that I have in mind, the thoughts that I'm hoping to shift, like the limiting beliefs and things like that. Just bringing to the forefront the future that I'm hoping for, so that I make some conscious decisions and eventually subconscious decisions that better my health and my fitness. You know, I don't have to suddenly, enroll into a CrossFit or rowing competition just so that I can get in shape. Some people need that. Some people do. Some people have to go all in or they won't do it, and I understand that because I have been there before. However, I think at this stage of my life and this mountain that I'm looking at and the climb and just like overthinking that, oh my gosh, this is like going to be so hard going back up this hill. And then what if I don't get there? What if something happens and I get knocked back down and then I have to start back over again? But then what happens if I do get there and then now I have to maintain it forever? If I start thinking about it that way, it makes me not even want to try. And so I'm just taking baby steps. So instead of trying to run a mile today, I just walked. And I walked at an incline and I did it for 45 minutes. And it was harder than it had been 3 weeks ago, for sure. And that again was daunting to me because I'm thinking, if 3 weeks can knock me back that much, like it's hard to want to get back up there, and then knowing that I can't take 3 weeks off again because otherwise it's going to be even harder. But rather than thinking about it that way, think about just getting out there and doing it. So that time in my life when I did work really hard to get healthier and I dropped some weight, I have not gone back to before that time, like that level of not healthy lifestyle. So I was like before that, I was in college and I was just, I don't know, I did not have a healthy lifestyle at all. So one positive thing that came out of that lifelong positive impact was that I never got that down again. So I did technically maintain a level of health and wellness and movement and fitness since then. I've definitely obviously dropped significantly from the peak of that goal that I achieved, that like being at peak health and wellness in my 20s, obviously, like most people do. And so I'm not going to be that hard on myself because I did gain valuable things from that. And I did still learn that I wanted to be more active and I wanted to be more healthy, to be healthier on a day-to-day basis. So I do still carry a lot of those benefits with me and that lifestyle with me, even though I don't think I do. When I think about my life now, I think, like I'm not that healthy, or I'm not as active as I used to be, or whatever. But I am still very much active and healthy comparatively to where I was in college before I started my big health and wellness push. And no, I will never do that big of a push again, but it did still help to create something. So what I'm saying with this is, this daunting feeling of like it has to be this lifelong thing that you're constantly having to work on. True, but at the same time, it does become just part of your life to where you don't really think about it so much every day. And it might not feel like you're working hard at something, but it will create certain lifestyle habits and thoughts subconsciously that you just carry without having to really think too hard about it. And that is true in my life, even though it doesn't feel that way because I'm not exactly where I was when I was at my best, you know what I mean? So, I have that to hang on to too, just that I still have maintained a lot. I still could be proud of myself for like having a fairly decent It's not great. I'm not gonna lie and say I have like a great healthy lifestyle, but it's better than it was before. So trying and developing habits continually can only be in your best interest. It can only help your future self. So like in the future, I might not be as healthy as I could be, but I probably will be healthier than I am right now, if that makes sense. And so like each time you go through that process of like creating these habits and then you fall back, and then creating these habits and then you fall back, like I'm talking about, you don't necessarily fall all the way to the very bottom. You might fall like part of the way down, and it feels like it's all the way down because it is still such a trek to get back up to some level that you want to be at. But in truth, you're not actually dropping all the way to the very bottom, if that makes sense. So trying and getting to a point, even if it's not to your mastery point or the point where you want it to be, like peak level, it's still going to be better than where you are. And then even if you fall back, you're probably not going to come all the way back to the very beginning. So that was also encouraging to think about as well. So just do something. Just knowing that if you don't, it is going to be harder. It doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't have to be above where you were. It doesn't have to match where you think you ought to be. It can just be, what can you do today? What's one thing you can do today? Even if that's not moving, if it's just like stretching a little bit that day because you don't feel good, or you're sick, or you don't have a lot of time, you're traveling, whatever it is, just do some stretching, get your body moving. And then also just making conscious decisions to, not fight the fight with poor food choices, or maybe if you want to have a nice treat, just maybe don't overdo it, or I don't know, things like that. Just like little tiny things, like maybe put half as much mayonnaise in your sandwich or something like that, something small, because it's those small things that are going to make the biggest difference over time. It doesn't have to be one big shift, one big change. So anyway, that's just been on my mind, and it's something that I'm having to work through. So I thought that's what I would talk about, because I'm sure it's relatable. I'm sure everybody feels this way time to time, and getting back on that horse, climbing back up that mountain of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish can seem so daunting if you think about it in the big picture and not narrow it down to just like today, this moment, what can I do? And then it just becoming like a routine thing in your day. It's just doing one thing. And then once you do one thing every day for, I don't know, a month, maybe you're like, hey, this is too easy. I can add more. I can add a little bit more next month, and etc., until 10 months from now, you've got a whole different perspective or a whole different, lifestyle, and it happened without you even trying, really. I mean, it's just like one little thing here and there. And so that's what I'm hoping for anyway. I know for my heart health and my body health, I need to up the ante on my health and wellness journey, my fitness especially, because I do eat pretty healthy and I do move every day, but I just need to elevate it a little bit just so that I can survive in this crazy world. And it's okay to go slow, even if I want results fast. At this day and age, I am not there, and I have to be realistic and also provide myself with a slow tumble into where I want to go, so that maybe once I tumble a little bit, I'll start rolling, and then it'll build and I'll just fly. Maybe, but maybe not. That's for future Lisa to think about. Right now, current Lisa is just doing one little thing every day, and not too little, but like enough to raise the bar a little bit. And I encourage you guys to do the same if you're in the same position, because that's all we can really do. It's better than nothing. It's better than just maintaining the same life and the same status that we're at, that every month or so you come to this conclusion, oh, I should really do something. I should really start working out more. I should really, I don't know, eat better or start saving. I should really start learning how to drive a stick shift, whatever it is. I think rather than having that thought every single month or every 3 months, rather than bringing yourself back to that point of being like, oh, I still haven't done that thing, rather than making this huge, big shift, just do one thing today, and then one thing tomorrow. And know that every day you're gonna do one thing, and it can be small. Just one thing different than what you're currently doing. I highly recommend it. All right, bye. See you tomorrow.